Hello and welcome to the PodGhast. It has been some time since Michael and my pipes have graced a podcast. Actually, how long's it been?
It has been a long time. Let's just say that. We've been
Let's
too
keep it
busy.
specific.
Too busy.
Okay. Yeah.
Too busy, people.
But not too good for you. So that's why we're back.
No.
We've got a corker today. I mean, not that they haven't previously been corkers, but here's a particular one. And there's a little bit of audience participation, I guess, in this one. After the fact, obviously, this isn't live. We're not BBC Two. But basically, the idea we've got this time is what we want to do is we want to look back at the Halloween or not a singular Halloween, but the Halloweens that we had when we were children and compare and contrast with what we believe it's like in America, because Halloween is very different in the UK compared to the US. Would we both agree on that?
Yes.
To the point where a lot of people don't even necessarily call it Halloween here. It's Halloween now, but it was always kind of known as guising when I was younger. I mean, people said Halloween,
but it was still. I would say it was still called Halloween. It was just guising was the act of dressing up and going out in a guise.
Yep.
So you would go guising. So that would be like in America, they say we're going trick or treating. So we would say we're going guising because you would go and dress up in a disguise, which sounds like it's all cloak and dagger stuff. You're dressing up as
it all links round to Guy Fawkes, who used the disguise to get into Parliament. Unfortunately, wasn't successful in blowing it up. But yeah, basically, let's compare and contrast.
You've just committed an act of terrorism.
That's fine. That's fine. We're on the internet. They can't touch us. So I guess we should start back. So you're slightly older than me, so you'll know about Halloween
when it started
all the time. So if you want to cover the 80s, I'll cover the 90s. Between the two of us, anything after that point probably doesn't matter.
And I've also just realised how bad this compare and contrast and things is going to be when we don't actually have an American.
We don't have any information about the American stuff other than what we've seen in films.
Yeah,
correct.
that should be a caveat here. So when I was a kid, Halloween was not necessarily like a really big thing. It was, I think it's something that over the last sort of 50 or 60, 70 years, it's still been around. But you could go to one area and not many people would really go trick-or-treating. I'm calling it trick-or-treating, guising. But if you went to like where I lived, there was quite a few people that did go out guising, but unfortunately there's probably more people going out guising than there were people actually putting out sweets. This is the thing. I keep going into the Americanisms. I was going to say candy. Sweets.
That's a no-no.
I know, sweets is what we call them.
Sweets and treats.
I know.
Used to be my name on a Friday night.
Beautiful. And yeah, like I loved Halloween. Halloween was always like a really big thing to me. It's probly
you still do. Let's be fair. You still make a big hullabaloo.
Yeah, it's probably my favourite time of the year. I think part of that goes back to like my mum and dad made such a big deal of it. Made such a big deal of it for all my friends and all that. We were probably the only house I knew that actually put up like sort of like Halloween decorations and things, and had like a spooky tape playing in the background, and as time went on, eventually like smoke machines and things like that. So a lot of the kids would come to our house and get all their sweets and all that.
Just so guys know, a tape is a small plastic cartridge with a magnetic cassette inside it that you can record music onto and play it back. Very old fashioned.
They're coming back, Cal.
Yeah, so they are. Just amongst the wankers, let's be honest, it's a dead format.
But I'll tell you something that was different. Big time from then to now was that, and I don't know if this was just my dad that did it, but certainly when he was younger, it was a tradition for them, which was that instead of a pumpkin, no one had pumpkins. That wasn't a thing. Yeah, so they're called tumshi heads, which just means turnip head, and we would carve them out, which is much harder than carving out a pumpkin, because a pumpkin is
solid. It's like trying to take it out of Dolph Lundgren's abs.
Yeah, it's just pulp inside a pumpkin, but inside a turnip, it's rock solid. So we would carve them out, carve out the face and the eyes, and put a candle in, and then on either side, we'd put like a nail in either side, and you have a piece of string. So you'd actually carry it like a lantern when you were going out and about. So I don't know if that's something that other people did, to be honest, but I know that we did it, and that comes from my dad, because they used to do that when he was a kid, and that would have been in like the 1950s. But it's not a big holiday here. I think in America it's a really big thing.
But a lot of it, there's been a big attempt to make it a big thing here, but a lot of that has been because of American influence.
Yeah, but then they also...
People are desperate to have Halloween like it is in America. I think a lot of people are.
I would love it to be like that, but at the same time, where do you draw the line between, see, Halloween and fancy dress?
Mm-hmm.
You see...
Are we talking about like slutty sailors?
We're talking the fact that when I used to dress up a lot for Halloween, not all the time, but a lot of the time, it would be something scary.
Right. I mean, that's quite abstract on Halloween.
Yeah, but fancy dress is just like anything goes. Just dress up as anything you want. Except for...
It has devolved into that, though. You're right. It is kind of, especially when you go out on in or around Halloween for a tipple. It's pretty much just people dressed up in whatever they want. I saw a really bad RoboCop a couple of years ago. There was, but the thing is, this is the thing now too. Now, I don't know if when you were younger, all your costumes were like handmade by yourself or your parents.
Yeah. Never had a manufactured one.
But it seems nowadays that almost every single costume that even kids and adults are doing are entirely off the peg.
Yeah, you just go into the supermarket and just you can buy.
And it's a big outlay as well, because like I was saying, I was out at that club and the guy had worn the... Now this is a particularly harrowing story. Just for the guy, it's funny for everyone else, but it was RoboCop, Iron Man, and I think Captain America kicking about. And I'd seen these costumes before. Like, there's this big Halloween store that opens in Glasgow, and it only opens for the month of October. And they kind of they have like a few days in the month where they're absolutely rammed because everyone leaves at last minute, comes down, spends a fortune on costumes.
Yeah.
But I'd seen the 3 costumes those guys were wearing, and I think they spent like £50 or £60 on them, and they were real shit costumes.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was quite amusing to see RoboCop coming down the street with a jaunty angle, mainly looking like he was made out of tinfoil, even though he'd spent a fortune in his costume, basically shouting at the top of his voice that he'd pissed himself.
Oh, God. I like the fact that your audio actually dropped out at that moment.
Yeah. It's self-censoring.
Aye.
Just for those that didn't hear, he'd urinated himself.
And he was declaring this.
He was declaring it loudly on Sucky Hall Street, the busiest club in Glasgow.
Directive number 5?
That's it. Now, I mean, the thing is, RoboCop probably does piss himself.
Yeah.
But the guy took the whole RoboCop thing a little too far in that capacity.
He's got a tap. He's got a tap.
Yeah. Just comes out the back, but he did also appear to have what looked like RoboCop's food coming out of his mouth, but I think that was unrelated.
Oh, God.
But this is the thing, the people spend a fortune on it, and kids do it as well, but... Like,
something is majorly lost with that, because there's something really special about making your outfit with your parents. Now, I will admit, some people aren't that way inclined, you know. They maybe they're not into like making things and stuff like that. Maybe some people just don't have the time, and I get that, but I think it's a shame that a lot of kids don't get that experience anymore. I mean, probably one of the most heartbreaking experiences for me was one Halloween where I dressed up, and this is just after me saying that always dressed up as something scary. I said for the most part, but I was dressed up as C-3PO one year, and the only thing that we bought was the mask.
Right,
and it was one of these plastic masks just with the elastic on it that you just
I bet you if we look back at that now, it's probably a pretty scary mask.
Yeah, probably, but the rest of the suit, my entire suit, was made out of golden card. that my mum and dad had bought, and they basically attached it to me with like to my two like clothes with like staples and things like that, and together with staples and stuff. So I'm walking about like that, right? And like every 3 steps something falls off.
So nobody tried to melt you down.
I spent a lot of that Halloween with being chased by someone with a stapler, and it wasn't in a bad way. It was just that I needed maintenance, Cal. That's
it, like a real robot. Oh, yeah. That's quite nice. Well, actually, on a related Star Wars one, I was 7 when the special editions came back out, so 1997. So and all the kind of toys and stuff hadn't really fully hit yet, and like I was determined for that Halloween I was going as Luke Skywalker, and my parents just didn't know where the fuck to get stuff, so I ended up with like a handmade kind of like kimono made out of a bed sheet. It was quite nicely cut together.
Nice.
And a mop, a red mop with a long black handle that kind of semi was lightsaber-esque, but I mean, I bet if you look back at it now, it was ghetto as fuck.
But there's something charming about that. As long as you don't get bullied for it, there's something charming about it.
I mean, let's be honest, it was a solid metal rod, this mop. Giving that to a child is very irresponsible, especially to use it as a lightsaber. So I think if anyone had said anything to me, they probably would have lost their teeth.
I think in the 80s there was a lot, at least to me it felt like, and it's funny enough, we were just talking about this because before we started recording we were talking about Stranger Things.
Alright, I thought you were going to say Teledildonics.
No.
That's a Google for anyone that's interested.
And that's telly, not tilly. So, yeah, in the 1980s, back in the day, it felt like there was a kind of celebration of being a kid around about the ages of, I would say, to maybe 7 till you're about 12, 13. And because there were a lot of films that were brought out in that era, and it was, if you look at things like E.T. and the Goonies, and especially in fact E.T.'s got a whole bit set on Halloween, and at least
from Lost Boys as well.
Lost Boys, and I went as, me and my friend Andy went as the Frog Brothers one year.
It's a great film, shame about the abuse.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. So, but there was something, I think there was something particular about the 1980s for being that age. And obviously I can say that because, it's a nostalgia thing. And it very well may be a nostalgia thing, but it felt like being a kid, going out on Halloween, being that sort of age, was tied into the sort of pop culture of the time and all that as well.
I have to say, it's funny you saying there the Frog Brothers. I'm just like, that could be possibly one of the most easily misconstrued costumes ever. If you said to your parents, what are you going as this year? We'll go and get you the costume. Oh, we're going as the Frog Brothers. You'd be very disappointed with what they came back with. I've spent good money on that. You're going out as the Frog Brothers.
Do you know... Shit. Yeah. Do you know I once... I don't know if I've told this story before on any of the podcasts.
We're going exclusive.
When... At that time, I assembled my friends into this thing called the GMS, right? Which
you have told us this.
The Ghost Monster Squad, right? And we all had membership cards and all sorts of stuff. And I populated my entire suburb with terrible creatures, and I would tell my friends about these things just as it was getting dark when they would have to go home, and then they wouldn't want to go home because I was telling them that some hideous thing lived specifically on the corner of a street that they had to pass to get to the house.
Fuck, sorry. We call them paedophiles now. 2 seconds, sorry, break.
No, you can't. How?
Hello? Sorry about that.
So anyway, I'll edit that out.
Right. Sorry about that, I was... very unprofessionally called on my telephone device.
It's all right. They'll not know. So yeah, I had this thing, the Ghost Monster Squad, where it was a group of my friends. We were all in this group together, and we would go around the suburb that I grew up in, going to all these places that I had told everyone, well, in there's a ghost, and in there's in that part there's a vampire, and really imaginative, as you can imagine.
Savile.
So yeah, in there's a Savile.
Now then.
God. And one time, like, this is linked to Halloween because one year, like I say, we dressed up as the Frog Brothers, and we had like from the Lost Boys, and we had the wooden stakes, and we had all the army gear. My dad went to like an old army store and bought us all this stuff. We had the dog tags and everything. It was awesome. But we would go around, and this isn't on Halloween, but we would still have some of that stuff left over, and we would go around. We would have like cantinas, like army cantinas, and right. I was like, right, we need to fill these up with holy water. I have told this story just in case you haven't heard it. I thought, well, we need holy water because we were going to this place where there was this opening in the ground, and I was convinced there were vampires that lived in there. So this at age 8 or whatever,
yeah, like you're justifying it.
Yeah, I might have been slightly older, 26.
That's how we met, actually.
Yeah.
I was down that hole. It was a rough time in my life. Some guy poured it. It's alright, it's holy water. But nonetheless.
There was a girl who lived next door to me, and she's a really, really nice girl called Lynn. And she was quite religious. She went to one of the local churches, and I said to her, look, you need to go and get us some holy water, so you need to go and fill this up, take it to one of the sort of altars and take the holy water out of it and bring it out to us because we're going to need it to fight these vampires. And she came back out, she's like, there's nothing there, there's no water being left out or anything like that. And I was like, all right, shit. I was like, just take it from the taps. Just take it from the taps. It's fine. It's on the church grounds. It's holy water anyway. So we went off with cantinas full of just normal tap water.
Oh, church water, come on.
Church water, tap water to go and fight these imaginary vampires that never showed their face. Although we managed to scare ourselves so much that we ran away from the place.
Well, there you go. To be fair, it's probably safer doing that than waiting around and asking a priest for a favour, especially in those days.
Jesus.
But probably even still now, actually, with spotlights, we believe. But yeah. So church water does much the same thing. Is this what we're saying?
Yeah. No,
any church water is good water.
No, what I'm just saying that was just a memory.
No,
it was just a memory,
right?
It was
no vampires.
Not that I know of.
Right?
Not I know of.
Right. So the water was effective.
I used to wear
a 1-to-1 success ratio.
I used to wear socks to bed for a long time when I was a wee boy because there's a film called The Fearless Vampire Killers. It's a Roman Polanski film. It's also called Dance of the Vampires in some places. And in that film, there's a woman played by Sharon Tate, actually, who was brutally murdered by the Manson family, who was just one of the most beautiful women I think I've ever seen. And
it's a particularly grisly demise as well, if I remember.
Yeah, awful. But in this film, she is kidnapped by this vampire, and it's from this old inn in the Romanian old country, and the father goes out into the snow to try and find her, and he's like calling out because he knows sort of who the vampire is. It's your typical Count Dracula thing. It's like an aristocrat that lives in this nearby castle, so he goes out to try and get her back, but they find him the next day, like not far from the inn, and he's frozen to death, but he's got bite marks all over him. And I always remember when he's examined by the sort of Van Helsing stand-in, he's got like puncture marks in his ankles. And I'd never seen that before. I'd always thought that they bite you in the neck. So for a while I wore socks in bed.
So he was covered head to toe in bites well as his ankles.
He's got bites in his ankles and his neck and his, I think it is stomach, if I remember rightly. Right. And his wrists. Thought
better cover the ankles.
Cover the ankles,
just in case.
Yeah. That's the most important bit. Don't cover my neck, just cover my ankles.
Just in case.
I think it's because my
walking around with neck breaks and a sock on full time.
Well, my feet would hang out of bed when I was a wee boy. I was a restless sleeper. I still am. Although I have since now stopped wearing socks to bed. I think my wife would find that very strange.
I'll get to the bottom of that. Well, let's find out the real truth behind this. Anyway, so let's compare and contrast. Now, American things have always been quite big in the UK, like pop culture wise, right?
Yeah.
We have these quote unquote American candy stores here where you can buy Twinkies, Hershey's, I'm just trying to think of some of the other shit. Jolly Ranchers.
Reese's.
Yeah, Reese's. Though Reese's you can buy a little bit more commonly, but this was all the stuff that's been imported. Lucky Charms, stuff like that. Anyway, you pay an absolute premium for it. It's like maybe $8 or $9 for a box of Lucky Charms.
You used to get Lucky Charms here. You used to get Lucky Charms. They just sold them.
Really?
Aye. When I was a kid, you used to be able to get them.
Well, this is the thing.
Even then, I thought they were horrendous. Because it's
lot
just
are
cereal
just buying
filled
them,
with,
though.
Yeah, but it's just cereal filled with candy.
Yeah, but people
Sweets.
are just buying them just because they've seen them in films. But the one that blew my mind the most is because Tesco's got an American candy section now as well. Tesco's a big supermarket here in the UK. And they've got an American section, and they've got imported Cheerios.
But we have
no
Cheerios.
No different from regular UK
Well,
Cheerios,
how do
except
you know
they're
that?
twice the price.
How do you know that? Have you tried them? I bet they're bigger.
Yeah, probably.
Because I have to say our Cheerios seem pretty small.
They're all right.
It does kind of sound though like a Scottish invention.
Cheerios. This is something you eat as you're on your way out the door. Anyway, to get back to what I was saying, so yeah, like American stuff like that's always sold pretty well there. That's one example for you that can be used as the basis for everything. But stuff like Halloween has been massively influenced now over here. Now,
especially I would say in the last 10 years. There seems to have been a big change the last 10 years because before that it felt like it was a smaller thing. But it's interesting because it feels like it's a bigger thing in the shops. But what's driving that to me is it feels like it's more the adults, it's more like the students and all that.
Yeah.
Going out
a shitload of money is spent on it. I can say from the number of people you see kicking about, because actually for the whole month of October for going out is pretty much fair game in terms of dressing up.
Yeah.
And a lot of money is spent on costumes and stuff like that as well. And I think that's partially trickled down as well, but I think it's tied into the fact that it's become a lot more commercial now as well. And that's possibly the American influence where it's been a bigger thing. It's coming over here. Now we're starting to notice the shops doing it because you get stuff in the shops here from like early September, I would say, Halloween stuff. I mean, there's Christmas stuff already in the shops just now.
Yeah, that right. Saying, can I just say though, because we have a strict policy in this house. Like my wife loves Christmas, right? She absolutely adores it. I love Christmas as well, but I'm always like, look, let Halloween have its day first. So we watch like because Kirsty doesn't like horror films, which is weird being married to me when I'm a horror writer. But she doesn't really enjoy them. But she will. The only time of the year that she will actually sit and watch them is on the sort of run up to Halloween. But on November 1st, that's when we make the transition. And on November 1st, we watch Nightmare Before Christmas because it's a bit of both. And then that segues us into every weekend we watch a Christmas film.
After that, you've got 2 months of Christmas.
Well, every weekend we watch a Christmas film. Early on, it's the shit ones. Early on, it's the shit ones. It's slim pickings. But then at some point,
what, like Ernest Christmas 7.
And I know a lot of people have a soft spot for Christmas Vacation, but you know it's okay. It's not an amazing movie, but that's like one of the sort of early ones. And then you build up to the 1970s Christmas Carol musical and all that jazz.
You know, it's occurred to me when you were talking about it there, because I know for you Halloween's always been a big thing, but I don't think... now, like, I was born in Glasgow. I lived in Glasgow for 6 years, and then I moved out to the countryside for about 10 years. And while I was out there, I don't think we had a single trick-or-treater to our door.
Yeah, but it was your house, not in like the middle of nowhere.
Well, this is the thing.
Middle of nowhere,
This is the thing. I had the perfect scam going, right? and it wasn't even intentionally a perfect scam, but
Yes,
it just
it was.
became one. The village that I lived in was called Symington, and basically
Ruled by
there's
King Simon.
There's two ends of it. There's like the bottom end of it, and then there's the top end of town. And I lived in the top end. Sorry, I shouldn't even call it a town. It's fucking tiny. Top end of the village. I lived up there.
What's the sort of what's the sort of population that we're talking?
Well, it's grown quite a bit since I've been there. It's technically overpopulated now, which makes me fucking laugh. But I don't know, maybe 1,000 or so people,
Right.
maybe
So
less. I don't know. I've just pulled that out of my arse.
It's not really at town level.
2 million.
It's still village. You still say it's a village.
Oh yeah, it's definitely village size. They've added shit onto it, but I'll look at a map. Maybe I'll Google it.
Just out of interest, did it become popular after you left?
Yeah, there's a little plaque. Hang on. But basically, like, I lived at the top of town on a house at the top of the hill, and I think everyone was just scared shitless about coming up there.
Yeah.
And that worked perfectly for my parents because they didn't have to get anything, and then I could basically, like a Viking, go down to the bottom of the town, pillage everywhere, and return safely. Return there would be zero repercussions.
Did you ever go to one of those houses where the person would be surprised by it and they would feel really, really bad, so they'd give you money?
Yeah, you did used to get money quite a lot. There's quite a lot of old people in the village though that just like to give you money. One time I made £12.
Nice.
Which was quite good considering I got some sweets as well. Actually, firing Symington into Wikipedia, there's a section, a 1-sentence section called recognition.
Right.
Okay, and it says Symington was painted by John Pearman of Biggar. Biggar is the nearest town. Around 1830. That's the only thing they've got.
Nice.
Fucking pile of shite.
But
anyway,
what about Halloween for you in the 1990s? Because so in the 80s we can say that I think it was kind of tied into a lot of the pop culture at the time with kids and things, and then I feel like it took a wee dip.
Yep.
Became less popular, and then I would say maybe round about the time I would imagine that you were trick-or-treating.
Yeah, that's when I started to notice the change,
again.
because when I was younger we used to make costumes, and then as we got gradually older it became a thing to buy them. And you would go to Asda's or wherever. If anyone's sitting there going, oh, Asda's perfectly good, the Halloween stuff's fine, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't wearing like a pair of George school trousers out and nothing else, and a mask.
Hey, I used to wear stuff from George, alright?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Right. I've just been defending Asda. Right.
We'll have none of this snobbery.
I wasn't being snobbery, I was telling other people not to be snobbery.
You're being jobbery.
Not to be snobbery, sorry. Anyway, do you know, actually, Poundland's got a fucking amazing Halloween section.
Yeah, but
I know
the thing is,
I'm like Poundland's biggest advocate.
If they actually had a Halloween costume though, and you wore a Poundland Halloween costume out on a night out, or you went trick or treating in it, would, if it rained, it would probably just disintegrate.
Dissolve. Funnily enough, the children's Halloween costumes are on sale at the moment, and they are 50p.
Seriously?
Yes.
The thing is, though, we shouldn't laugh too much about that and be like, "Oh, fucking hell, it must be terrible." At the end of the day, there'll be some parents that will be getting that. There'll be some parents just can't afford.
Would you like to take a moment to apologise to them?
Why should I apologise? I'm thinking of them.
You've just made a joke about it. I just said there was a very good selection, and you said, "Ha ha."
No.
Ha ha, because I've got my stuff from George. Ha ha.
No, I never said that.
Anyway. Right, to compare and contrast with America then. So I would say it's probably fairly accurate to say that our only experience of America is in terms of Halloween is through films. Yeah. And every film that I think Halloween is featured in, they make quite a big deal of it.
Yeah, that's true, but it would be interesting if it turned out that
movies
it wasn't,
like Halloween
wasn't a big thing. And I wonder as well, because America's such a big country, you wonder if it's a regional thing as well. If there's some places where it's really, really popular and others where it's not. The reason that we have such a strong idea of Halloween, like in terms of an American Halloween, is because, like you say, of Hollywood and films. It's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day, slight tangent, but it is kind of connected. That it's the reason why people find difficulty with, for example, our accents. Even though you and I don't have the same accent, really.
No.
It's slightly different. But to the untrained ear, it will be the same accent. And the reason that people find difficulty with it is because they're not exposed to it, they're not used to it, whereas we're completely used to a range of American accents.
Yeah.
Because
that's why people say when they hear when Scottish people say they hear Scottish people in film, it freaks them out because we're not used to hearing it.
It shouldn't be there, and it always sounds so insincere.
It's not. The worst one ever was in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
When they had that guy playing the bounty hunter, he went, Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon. And he was doing that thing where he had to enunciate all of his words correctly.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my trousers here on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
It's like, mate, shut up.
It just
fucking
does.
biddy.
It just does not.
That scene was a big pile of shite. Force Awakens is shite. I've decided.
What was your favourite Halloween costume?
That's a good one. I wonder if I can dig out some pictures for this. I'll have to look back in the archives. See, I distinctly remember
the McPhail archives. There's like a
That's
building,
it, yeah.
a building with your face
Alfred
on it.
to comb back through them. The thing is, I remember I used to wear costumes all the time when I was a kid, and this wasn't Halloween. This is like full time. When I was really young, I had 2 Batman costumes, so that when one was in the wash, I could wear the other one.
The thing is, though, mate, that is sort of now like a legitimate thing, right? You see kids wearing costumes all the time, but I mean, it might have been that way when you were a kid, but like
no, it wasn't. It was definitely just me.
But when you're talking about that, though, I used to dress up as the Bandit from Smokey and the Bandit. Right. Now imagine
what age are we talking?
Oh, I don't know. Too old, probably. Yeah. I'm thinking
the Bandit was the car, yeah.
No, I dressed up as the Bandit. For anyone that's not seen Smokey and the Bandit, it's Burt Reynolds driving an old Trans Am car, being chased across the country by Smokey, who's a sheriff.
It's a classic.
Yeah, but Burt Reynolds.
Did you have the moustache?
Burt Reynolds is wearing a red shirt. He's got the blue denims, and he's got the hat, and he's got the cowboy boots. Now I didn't have the cowboy boots. This, by the way, this is a weird thing. This wasn't an outfit that was cobbled together. That was deliberately put together. This was something that was cobbled together from stuff that I just had. I happened to have a red shirt.
Your line dancing costume.
Right, I happened to have a red shirt. Obviously, I had blue jeans. And I had a cowboy hat. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it said Mallorca on the front of it.
Fucking hell.
And I remember going to my Aunt Jenny's house dressed like that. And I must have been about 7 or 8. And my cousins were there. And their children, who were about the same age as me, were there. And I sat like I was Burt Reynolds. I just sat there like I was Burt Reynolds from Smokey and the Bandit.
Did you stay out in the car beeping the horns? You had a run to make?
I stayed in character. And I was like tipping my hat and all that. You know, right? It was ridiculous when I really think about it. But that's the world I was
funny.
in.
You know, it's when you say you and Burt Reynolds, I start putting it all together, and I start, yeah, there are a lot of similarities.
Burt Reynolds, if he'd went the wrong way, actually he did go the wrong way a few times.
Yeah, let's be honest.
But that was nothing to do with Halloween. That was just like when you were talking about like dressing up as a kid. I didn't run around really dressed up in like costumes, but that was one time that I remember doing it, and I was
that was a costume. You'd made your own.
Yeah,
I had 3 phases. I had spent a long time dressed as a fireman. Then there was Batman, and then there was Captain Scarlet. I did have a Captain Scarlet outfit as
You
well.
are obsessed with Captain Scarlet still.
And there's no doubt about it. If I can ever commandeer the rights for it, I will make an 18 certificate Captain Scarlet film.
Amazing.
And we'll get Cary Grant back for it.
But I still think...
Do you know something? Can I just say that I funded Jerry Anderson's children on Kickstarter to make a new film?
Did
you? They've made a new show, and only us Kickstarter backers were allowed to watch the video. I'll send you it. But essentially, it's one of I think I watched it when I got in. It was maybe like 4 o'clock in the morning or something, so I'd had a wee bit to drink, and I was properly freaked out.
You're like, these people are all puppets.
They've gone full Uncanny Valley now.
Really?
Yeah, I think Team America's ruined it slightly, but it's unsettling, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
And one of them's got a Scottish accent as well, so that really blew my mind. Anyway, sorry, to get back to Yawn America.
So your favourite Halloween costume?
Yeah, favourite Halloween costume. See, that's the problem. Trying to remember it is difficult because I did go as Darth Vader one year, that was good as well. I've got a lot of Star Wars ones. It's difficult to remember because my memory is so coloured by... when
alcohol.
I was younger, wearing wearing that stuff all the time. It's really difficult to think of something. Would you say Burt Reynolds was the high point for you?
No, that wasn't Halloween.
Yeah, no, but just generally.
That was the high point. Do
you peaked at 8 years old in your Burt Reynolds
costume?
Do you know,
when I think about it, I think that was the first time where I started doing something that was potentially a little bit unhealthy, which was... that I drowned kittens. No, I think round about that time, that was the first time that I would watch something and I would latch on to a character, and in my head I would just try to be that person.
Right.
So like, and I think that sort of continued.
And you thought
for a long time.
You
probably.
thought for a nice, easy introduction into being other people, I'll start with Burt Reynolds at the age of 8.
I don't know if it means that I just have I have a weak sense of self or something.
I would say so.
But
if your immediate response was to go, I'll be Burt Reynolds.
I would. But I still, I mean, I think in some bizarre way, I still do it. You know, like everyone has those moments where they're maybe not feeling as strong in themselves.
But you can live vicariously through your writing now.
Yeah, I can, but
I do it through drugs.
But but when I watch if I watch a film or TV show and I get really into like a certain character, then I think there's certain times where you can almost kind of ape them in some way, even if you don't mean to do it. If you're really, I don't mean actually going about like I'm R2-D2. Like, I don't actually mean like that. I mean just, I'm trying to think of an example. So like, if you watch something that, like that whole idea people used to say, oh, James Bond, women want to be with them, men want to be him. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm talking about that really.
Some men want to be with them as well.
Yeah, that's true.
We've got to be fully accepting of everyone now that Miley Cyrus is pansexual.
But I think that idea was definitely there when I was a kid, that I would sort of latch on to certain characters and try to be. That's why I always joke about, you know, trying to be Ferris Bueller, but I'd always end up being Cameron. Do you know what I mean? Like that's exactly what would happen.
Well, some people would lead you to believe that Ferris Bueller is actually a figment of Cameron's imagination.
That's an amazing
which may well
theory.
Actually lead into the fact that you think you are Ferris Bueller, but you are actually
Cameron.
It's interesting. No one's actually seen me and you in the same place at the same time.
But sorry, I went all psychoanalytical there. So, in terms of what my costumes at Halloween, there were ones that I absolutely loved. There was Batman. One of the greatest.
Batman's a solid candidate.
And it was like it was made from scratch, even the ears and all that. And I had the big long 1970s or even later than that, the Michael Keaton film. I had the long ears. And
yeah, so let's around about that time. What film or like what would you be basing that? Like, are we talking like Black Batman or Grey and Blue or?
yeah, it was all black, and I had we'd like made cut the cape out of like black felt, and the symbol was I think the symbol was like a piece of card that's sort of drawn on and coloured, but it was the yellow and black one, which is my favourite one.
Right.
And one of the greatest moments of Halloween, it sounds so lame, but I always remember this as a kid, was walking over to my neighbour's house and a security light came on and it just cast my shadow perfectly. And it was like, I looked at the shadow and I was like, I'm fucking Batman. I didn't swear, but like the shadow was perfect, and I was like, it just looked like something out of the comics, you know.
Nice.
And my friend,
was that another time? I feel like I've become your counsellor
I know.
tonight. And was that another time, Michael, where you felt you transcended into that character?
Yeah, potentially. But my friend Andy, it was a bit of a mix because my outfit was based on the 1989 Batman.
Right.
My friend Andy, who me and Andy tended to like go as the same sort of thing, so we would like be like a double team. So
yeah, okay.
He was dressed as Robin, but his mum though, right? She like tailored a Robin outfit, and I mean,
but not a 1960s.
It was
Robin
a 60s one.
Oh no!
No! It was, even then you could look at that and go, holy shit! Like the amount of effort that'd been put into that. And we were going trick or treating and jumping around in people's gardens and that,
But the leggings and all that,
pretending to be Batman and Robin, and it was great. I don't know about the leggings. I think you might
and
have
the wee pants. Oh no!
So we went as Batman and Robin. Another year we went as I said before, Edgar and Allan Frog, the Frog Brothers from The Lost Boys.
I was about to say Edgar Allan and Poe.
One of my that's where the name of comes from. But one of my favourite ones was we went as Ghostbusters. And I think there was one or two of us. I think there maybe was like 3 or 4 of us that went out as Ghostbusters. But I just remember me and Andy, and when I think about it now, Andy always had to be the second guy. What a dick I was. Like, I was Peter Venkman. Do you know what I mean? If I was the Ghostbusters, I was Peter Venkman, he was Ray.
There was always relationships like that.
He was Ray, and
Ray still.
Yeah, no.
They wouldn't have the Ghostbusters if it wasn't for Ray.
I was Batman, he was Robin. Out of Edgar and Allan Frog, I was Edgar, he was Alan. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was the Corey Feldman character. And when I think about that, and the thing is, the cheek of it is, now if you put the two of us side by side, he's a very cool guy, and I'm not. So if we dressed up in those costumes now, the role would be reversed.
Just for people that don't know about the old Ghostbusters, just to give you a reference, the characters now would be called Erin and Abby.
Do you know we dyed the costumes as well so that they were the colours of the
real Ghostbusters?
Well, mine was brown.
Cartoon.
Do you know what? I think Andy's dad made a proton pack.
Alright, an unlicensed nuclear reactor for an 8-year-old.
Yeah, it was carved out of wood. And it was on his back.
Fucking hell.
And it was amazing.
That's pretty cool.
You know. But
I had one of the plastic one. I mean, this was well after Ghost Brothers. Ghost Brothers. This was well after Ghostbusters had kind of died in terms of popularity.
Never died.
I had the proton pack with the foam insert.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's still in the shed. I'm sure I've still got the proton pack. I think the neutrino one's fucked, but because I cut the cable off it. Did you ever do destructive things like that as a child? You're like, this will definitely improve this if I remove this. And then after it, you went, fuck, that was a terrible idea. This won't reattach.
When I think of the things that I didn't take care of when I was a kid.
Like things that were given to you by your father that had looked after them since the 1960s, and you just immediately fucked them into a wall.
I used to get annoyed at my dad because my dad used to say to me he never take care of things, and I would just be like, of course I do. And when I think about it, I took care of nothing.
I do feel
about
it.
Almost everything I had get broken at some point. And it wasn't like a wee shit or anything. I was very, very grateful for the things I get given. I'm
fortunate I've grown out of that now, but it's only with certain things. Like if I see someone like mistreating something I own that I'm particularly partial to, like a camera or something, or not even necessarily mistreating it, just like touching it without asking me permission first, like what you doing, like for example, if I'm working, or even if we're doing a shot or whatever, and someone goes in and tries to watch the clip we've just shot, I'll just be like, what are you doing?
Or going into your kitchen
from miles away,
trying to get yourself a glass,
get into the cupboard. I know you keep telling that story like it's a zinger.
I know, it's not really.
Every time you're just like, Michael went into some cupboards and I asked him what he was doing.
That was in the early years of McPhail and Whitehouse.
The early days of McPhail Whitehouse Incorporated, yeah.
But yeah, like the outfits and things like that. The one I always remember as well was I got quite into doing like very basic prosthetic stuff and like makeup and things like that when I was a kid, because I had a video camera and I would make little horror films, which by the way probably are going to end up on the channel at some point. We will make a video about it.
Sorry, for a terrible second there, my mind, you know how often my mind wanders. I'd saw you in like a Doogie Howser capacity as a child, like repairing people that had been in traumas with your prosthetics.
Yeah, my prosthetics.
Yeah. I need to go with school started.
There was one year where I bought this pack, and it was to basically, you put the sponge over your eye, right, and then you placed all the latex, the rubber latex in liquid form all over your face, all over that side of your face, and then you painted it red and black, and it just looked like the side of the one half of your face was removed, was gone.
Right, okay.
But it took me so long to do that by the time I went out, I think it was about 9 o'clock at night or something like that. And it was like, I missed most of Halloween because of it. I always remember that.
That is a good one. And it's funny, I'm really struggling to remember. I think it's probably because Halloween wasn't that memorable where we lived, as much as it was just an opportunity to get sweets and stuff. That's the only thing I remember.
Kirsty never went
canny against stuff.
Kirsty never went trick or treating. Do you know what I mean? It just depends. That's why I'm saying.
Yeah, but they were still burning witches where she lived. Still do.
You were more remote than she was. I know I won't. She actually likes you. I'd like to keep it that way. But yeah, like I don't know. Like there was just always something really magical. I wrote a story, and I hate to always go, oh yeah, by the way, I wrote a story about this. But I did write
Michael Whitehouse.
Yeah. But I wrote a story which I did narrate for the channel called The End of All Hallows Eve. Can't even say the title. And that is about me and my friends, and all the people that are mentioned in it and named in it are like my real friends who I did go trick-or-treating with when we were guys and when we were kids, you know. And I was one of these ones that wanted to keep doing it because I loved it. It was a really special night for me.
See, that's the thing. When's the cut-off? Because there seems, I wonder if now as well there's a tremendous amount of pressure on kids that once they reach a certain level to just stop.
There are people, see when that story was posted on creepypasta.com, there were a lot of people commenting saying, oh, I feel really bad still going out at 17 now after reading that, because in the story I'm talking about as being about 12. I think 12 is kind of, you know, just before you're a teenager, really. Yeah. But then, I mean, maybe, like, I don't know, did I go trick?
Problem is, though, as well, though, you get, like, gangs of kids going out on their own without any parents around and just causing absolute hell because they're wearing masks and whatever.
But it also...
not that I ever did that.
It also causes... I think it also makes you feel bad because, like, sometimes when we go in for Halloween in a big way, and because a lot of people don't do it in that way, we've got the... You know, I carve the pumpkins and they're sitting at the front of the door and there's decorations all in the house and all that for when the kids come in. And for the most part, that works really well. But the other side of that is that you do get kind of targeted. And you will get you will get teenagers turning up at your door and they're practically just wearing no costume.
Yeah.
I don't mean that
Just
they're
get the
naked, by the
sweets.
way. I mean they're just dressed normally.
But there's enough of them that they could rush you, so you just...
Yeah, you kind of like begrudgingly give them a little bit. And sometimes I worry about my mum and dad's because they still go in for it in a massive way. And that that house has got a real reputation in the neighbourhood, so people are like constantly go there year after year. And occasionally you do get ones that just come in and they're taller than me.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like...
You walk up, you take the candy ball away, you say, "Do you know what I'm going to give you? I'm going to give you a piece of advice." Yeah. There's nothing more valuable than that.
Yeah, but other than that, I really love Halloween. The thing that does piss me off about here, as opposed to America, I would imagine, is the lack of stuff on television at Halloween.
Right.
Because sometimes you get some stuff.
There's still the old hammers on usually.
Sometimes, but they don't do... The only time I remember they went in for it in a major way was on BBC Two, or it was one Halloween, and it was the entire weekend on BBC Two was basically dedicated to horror. And
when was Ghostwatch, by the way?
That I think that was the same year I'm talking about, so that was like I would imagine that was 91, 92, something like that. But they went in for a really big way. There was like a Tom Savini documentary where they were following him around and he was showing you how to do all the makeup effects, and it was really interesting. Then they showed loads of films and they had like a horror host and all that. It was great, but they normally don't do anything. Now
you've said 17 is the cut. You think is maybe a little bit too old, and funnily enough, I found a website called 17.com that's rating the 10 best Halloween movies. Would you like to guess what the 10 best Halloween movies are? Should we start at number 1?
Halloween.
No, it's Hocus Pocus.
Right.
Number 2?
Halloween.
No, it's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
It's right. Okay, so I'm going to say
I'm going to be honest. You're definitely not getting
going by this.
One.
It's not the Halloween tree.
No, the next one is Halloween Town. Halloween Town 1, 2, and number 3, which is Halloween Town High. Never even heard of that shit. This is clearly influenced, right? Number 4 is Casper, which is a terrible film.
But
this is
Dan
Aykroyd a bit of money. It does have some redeeming.
It does have Raymond Stantz in it. He actually even has, it says Stantz on his uniform.
I know. It's a little bit depressing.
And he's got a moustache.
He's got his beard and it's just a moustache.
Number
5 is Nightmare Before Christmas, which I would argue is definitely better than
that's a great movie.
Seen.
I love Nightmare Before Christmas.
Tower of Terror with Steve Guttenberg and Kirsten Dunst. Never seen that. Someone's written this for a laugh. Number 7 is Double Toil and Trouble with Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen.
It's that generation, it's the Disney generation then, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, but here's a curveball coming up in a minute, right? The next one's Addams Family, which we can all agree is an excellent film. Let's be honest. Raul Julia is just great in anything he's in. I'd watch the Street Fighter movie just because Raul Julia's in it.
Aye.
But you see, this list, right, is obviously a thing, but number 9 is Legend of Sleepy Hollow. The Tim Burton one.
Yeah, but that ties into the whole teenage angst sort of type thing.
And number 10 is Beetlejuice.
No, that's
That's a bit more. Tim Burton on the list again! ! This one isn't necessarily a Halloween movie per se, but it does involve 2 ghosts hiring a third ghost to scare people out of their house. Michael Keaton as the most inappropriate bio-expert ghost you'll ever meet is just the best. And Alec Baldwin circa 1988 is just so handsome and talented. Talented, yes.
I think... I thought the way they were going, they would have put the Halloween tree on there. Which is pretty good.
This list, as far as considering number 9 is.
But it's like an animated film from like the early 90s.
Yeah.
So
probably not.
We're reaching the sort of kind of hour-ish mark.
Yeah.
Although after
one
I
thing
edit
I
this
guess
down,
we
it's
should
probably 20 minutes long.
Yeah, we should probably, seeing as it might be a while before we do another podcast, but we should try and do them more regularly. What's your thoughts on this clown situation, Michael?
What, people dressing up as clowns and freaking people out?
Yeah. One of my friends in America, in Pennsylvania, said there was a sighting 2 minutes from his house. And the guy was chasing people with a gun.
That's different. That's different. That's you're taking your life into your own hand doing that anyway.
See, that's the thing. It's particularly in America because, you know...
It's been here as well, though.
Yeah, no, it is happening here. There's a guy in Cumbria, I believe, dressing up as Batman and patrolling the city.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So it's certainly done. But for people that don't know, basically some people have taken the opportunity to dress up as clowns and kind of just accost people in the street, and social media's blown it up to the point that everyone's scared of them. So people are kind of, I guess, trading on that they think most people will just run away from them. But I think particularly here in Glasgow, they may very much regret trying to scare the odd character.
Yeah, I can kind of understand why people do it. Oh, it's quite funny, but I just wouldn't go that far with it.
But people have been using it as like a cover for attacks and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, so...
just because, you know, it's like, oh, who did it? A clown.
Yeah.
Great. We've had about 20 clown reports
obviously
tonight. Great.
If that sort of thing's going on, then I can't even speak tonight. I think about get a migraine the way I'm speaking.
So you think they shouldn't be attacking people?
Yeah. I think,
right,
you know, keep the attacking to a minimum.
Yeah.
Couple of custard pies, honk your nose, be on your way.
Water seltzer in the flower, is that all right?
Let's be honest though. Yeah, that's all right. But let's be honest though, Tim Curry has a lot to answer for.
Yeah. That's a poor guy. I hope he gets better, but I don't know. It's not looking good.
And on that grim note,
I know. Fuck. Right. Before we go, what's your prediction for the most common Halloween costumes this year? I'm going to say Joker and Harley.
Oh yeah.
I've seen about 45,000 Harley Quinn costumes.
The Joker, ever since the Dark Knight as well, the Joker's been everywhere.
A big one.
But... Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't really know, to be honest.
I don't think Margot Robbie's job's at any risk, though.
No.
A lot of them I've seen. I think she's probably going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I don't know, you might see some good Harleys out there. You go for a Glaswegian Harley?
Probably not. That's a dangerous ride, that.
We're
not talking about bikes.
What I would like to know off of our wonderful listeners is, what was your favourite Halloween costume?
Yes.
I would like to know.
And can you give us some experiences if you're across the pond in America, or even other countries if you're in Europe, or Bangladesh or Brazil? Probably unlikely in Bangladesh, but
you never know.
If you've got Halloween experiences anywhere, we would like to know about them, and then we'll compile them into a big list and do nothing with them.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm gonna have to go now, though, Calm. My planet needs me.
Okay. Shall I just do, or should we sign off as well? It occurs to me now that we've got to this point, and I can't remember if in the fracas when we were starting we actually introduced each other. So I would just say I've been Callum and he's been Michael. And thanks for listening.
Good night, everyone, and happy Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween when it comes, though it's not Halloween yet.
This might come out it won't come out on Halloween.
No, it'll come out before that. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed tonight's PodGhast. If you would like to support the free content the Ghastly Tales team produces, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ghastlytales. And if you have any requests for horror topics you would like us to discuss, you can leave a comment below if you're watching this on YouTube, or send us a message on our Facebook page at facebook.com/ghastlytalespresents. Alternatively, you can email us at ghastlytales@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more original horror stories, narrations, films, and podcasts. Unpleasant dreams.